Okay, so today I want to make a full breakdown of Shawn Raboutou's climbing style, both in terms of physical, technical, and mental aspects. So I'll be showing two boulders. One I think highlights his style really well, another I think is less his style. So yeah, let's see this. So first thing, even just pulling off the ground, you can already tell a lot. He has bent arms here, and this is usually something that it just depends on how you're strong with your fingers, right? Some people are stronger with bent arms, some people are stronger with straight arms, and it's something you can train quite a lot. But in his case, he's just strong like this, and it does affect how you can move on the wall, right? It does change quite a lot in terms of the mechanics of how you're moving. So yeah, just the basic thing, he's stronger in this position. He's also 3-finger dragging here, half crimp here. He's just naturally very strong with a half crimp and 3-finger drag, and he's just weaker in like a full crimp, and he pretty much never full crimps, right? That again is just the positions you feel stronger with your fingers is just genetics. You can train them quite a lot, and I think it can be quite beneficial to train positions that you're weaker in, so that you can have like variety, so you can grab the holds in different ways, and the ways that are more efficient. But at the end of the day, you have to also double down on your own strengths, because otherwise you just don't have any strengths, right? So, pulling off the ground. Another thing pulling off the ground here, the fact that he has his hips under the holds. This is the most basic thing for climbing technique. Because at the end of the day, with climbing technique, you're just trying to apply force in a way that counters gravity. And gravity, you know, you can, when you add up all the like little places that gravity is pulling your body in, it adds up to your center of gravity, which in the human body is close to the hips. And so if you, and the thing is, if you apply force on the center of gravity or on the center of mass, it moves the entire body without rotating, right? Like if it's just one particle, right? So if the gravity is pulling you here on your hip, is where the average of the gravity is pulling you. If you get your hip under the hold that is pulling you, then you pull your entire body up efficiently, right? You don't rotate or you don't feel out of position. This is also why, for example, very often people tell beginners to like straighten their arms, right? You see like a beginner climb, very often they are very tense and they engage their arms super, and they get like their chest super close to the hold, and they're like very off position. And you know, in that case, telling them to straighten the arms is really just a way of getting their center of gravity under the hold, which is just efficient. So now, this is just something that I think basically everyone should really master, and basically all the high-level climbers do intuitively, even if they don't understand like physics of it. But yeah. Another thing, his core engages pretty hard. This is something you see again in every high-level climber. It's just really good core engagement, right? Like you have to be, because otherwise you just don't pull off the ground with these feet and these holds, right? And now what I want to highlight here is the trajectory he's going to move his hips. I think this is something that Shawn does like better than anyone else I've seen. Is his hips are going to move in a pretty much straight line to the hold, right? And if you climb that way, usually it allows you to have very little swing when you hit the hold. Which, you know, for climbing on the rock in particular, on crimps, and dynamic moves on crimps, usually makes it very efficient. Another thing I think should be noted, because he climbs with bent arms, and this is not the case if you climb straight armed, like if someone like Will Bosey or Sorato, this would not apply to them. But here, usually you think pulling with your hand like this, right? You think about pulling your hand like you can imagine like a line going from the hold like this, and you think about pushing your hand like this direction in accordance with this line. This way you apply force like this, right? Same thing with the foot. You can imagine like an imaginary line going like this, and then you push your feet in the direction you want to go to, because at the end of the day you're trying to basically apply force in a way that like gets you to the hold. And it's, you know, especially with the feet, it can be quite limited by the shape of the holds. Like you can see these holds, this foot, it looks like it's a bit like this, this foot is like this, right? So you kind of have to squeeze with your feet, like, you know? And if you're squeezing, this foot is pushing like this, and this foot is like this. So then you apply force kind of like this, right? When it adds up. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to apply force in a way that gets you to the hold. So pay attention to this. Like, perfect straight line to hips. Just hits it. Again, gets the hip under the hold. Here, drop knee. I mean, again, hip under the hold, hip under the hold. As here, again, same principle. Just go like here, 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 and then the foot that was here, here, right? You just want everything to be getting you to the hold. Another thing that you should pay attention to when he hits the hold is like the timing you engage your core, right? Usually you wanna, I mean, it really depends how you do it. Some people will breathe in when they go down to generate the swing, and then they engage their core when they hit the hold. But at the end of the day, you want to be really engaged when you hit this. So, and it's like a lot of timing and kind of, I mean, part of it is also like pre-engagement of the muscle. This is something that basically any elite athlete, not just climbers, do. Is before, say, hitting a hold, you already are engaging your muscle to a very high degree, and this allows you to generate force more quickly. This is something you see in high-level jumpers or triple jumpers or high jumpers or sprinters before they hit the ground. They are pre-engaged their muscles. Like triple jumpers can get up to like 80%, 90% muscular, like max engagement of what they would get normally before they even hit the ground. So, and that is not something you can train. It's like subconscious, right? It just comes from doing these movements a lot. But I think with climbing, that kind of pre-engagement comes from not having hesitation, right? If you hesitate, you already failed the move, right? So zero hesitation, just do it, hit it perfect. Now here, same thing. He tries to get his hip under the hold as much as he can, but he's too short. His arms are too short. He doesn't have enough span, so he can only get up to here, right? So he releases the finger to try and get a bit more distance, and then he's going to swing and go to this hold. In terms of swinging, he goes like this, right? Basically swinging this foot like this like this, to try and basically get this swing to keep himself up as much as possible, right? Use the swing of the hips to keep himself up, because again, he's trying to do this, but I mean, you don't have a foot to push you in this direction, right? So how can you do that without your feet? You swing your hips in the right timing, in a way that will get, especially, you know, this part of the hip, because he's going with the left hand, so going with the left part of the hip. If he was going with the right hand, you would usually think a bit closer to the right part of the hip, because again, you have to remember the center of gravity depends on how you position your body, right? If you change the position of your body, the position of your center of gravity and the position of your center of mass changes, right? You can manipulate it. That's what also climbing technique is about. So here, here's this 360 swing. Here, for example, this is the position where he can produce the most amount of force, right? And then just goes almost a straight line in this. You know, he can keep a straight line of his hips here because he's very strong with his biceps and his fingers, and he has the finger strength to just pull himself up and do like almost a one-arm pull-up. Then, yeah. And yeah, look at core engagement. Like, look at these muscles here engaging. Even though the moves are like a jug and not too hard, you know? So yeah, this poser. Let's check this one here. I mean, the same principles, right? Like, these moves, like, not too bad. So here you have a drop knee. Drop knees that you work because of opposition, right? You have a foot like here, foot like here. When you add up the forces, it's up being like up, right? So it's quite different from off the wagon in that. Here, three finger dragging, very interesting, right? Like, some people would never three finger drag. I mean, yeah, like three finger crimp. But again, he's just strong in these positions. So here you can see a little bit of hesitation. A little bit, like, just doesn't hit the feet right. And just like, everything's a little off, you know? But this foot also just a little, he looks really tense, but not in like a good way, right? And this is something that, I'll just talk about it, but... okay, something interesting here. Maybe his head is almost hitting the wall. So you can see how, you know, when you do moves like this, where you're pulling like this, where you're out and it's really on your shoulders here, right? You have to get close to the wall. You have to get your chest close to the wall. Look at how he's basically touching his head to the wall. Get as close as possible, right? Then he's like, just looks a little off. It just doesn't look, yeah, and then he just falls, right? Then the Senko, you can just see. Everything is just a lot smoother. I think, to be honest, this boulder here in particular, it just looks like the case of post-activation potentiation, where, you know, when you do some activity in your muscle, like when you haven't warmed up fully yet, and you do engage something, there's changes that happen in your muscle that allow you to produce more force. And that's not necessarily some technical or mental or anything like that. It's the actual changes in the muscle that happen. This is why warming up is very important, and why you very often, you can give a try on a climb and you don't change anything about the execution, but you just feel way better. And that's because there's changes that happen in your muscle that allow it to produce more force in these positions and the way you tried. So see here, he's just way faster, not hesitating. He just gets into positions much quicker, and that's very important for efficiency, right? Because climbing is an anaerobic sport, bouldering is an anaerobic sport, and with anaerobic activity, look at sprinting or like cycling or really anything, that there's almost like a limit in like metabolic limit to your muscle to how it can produce force anaerobically before it starts to become aerobic, and it's around like 60 seconds. Like, it's just not possible to push the anaerobic energy system much further than 60 seconds of max effort at a time. So with bouldering, like, you have like a hard limit to how much time you have to climb, you know? Unless it's like really easy, or like the moves are easy and you can do them like aerobically, but for hard moves, you just have to climb like in less than 60 seconds or you're just cooked. Okay, so here he just goes way fast. I mean, just see this. Like, look at how quick he goes. Again, engages his hip, and so he under the hold. He's here under the hold, right? He moves straight line like this, pulls like this. Another thing that I think can be noted on the stand go here is he's a lot more relaxed on his legs. And this is something that can make a big difference. Like, if you have tension on this muscle here on your hip flexor, it's a muscle that the function of it is to pull your legs up like this, right? So you usually use it when you toe hook, for example. But when you're climbing just like this, if you have tension here, it pulls your feet up, and so it takes the weight from your feet. So you usually want to be really relaxed with your legs. And something else about Shawn's style is that I think he's a bit quad dominant in how he applies force. He's just stronger with his quads than his glutes. You can notice like he's generally really good at jumping and things like that. And that does change a little bit. And I do encourage you to pay attention when you watch him climb. Maybe if you compare him to someone like Daniel Woods or Aidan Roberts, which I think tend to be more glute dominant, right? And the glutes, the function of the glutes is to pull like this. So generally they will be pulling force like this. While the quad, the function is to extend the knee, right? So it will be more like this, right? Pushing. And that's just, again, a small difference in terms of the physical quality that will change how he climbs a bit. And it's something that, yeah, it's not something you can force if you don't have this quality, right? Like, there's no reason for you to, I mean, you can train it, but it's not necessarily training the technique to climb like that. You have to change the physical quality you have. You have to get the strength, right? So here it just locks off very quick. Still finger drag. I find it so funny. Because this is like the only boulder I've ever seen him full crimping. Right? Look at that, full crimp, underneath the hold, good positions. Managed to get this hold without getting out of this, right? Because the more you go out, you know, the more you go out of this line here, the more